Welcome inside edition number 151 of the soon-to-be award-winning Minnesota Sports Chat. Award-winning, if only in my own mind. Housekeeping as we get off the ground here. Don't forget to rate on Apple and Spotify. Tell your friends and family all about Minnesota Sports Chat. Maybe even send them a link of how you found this video or how you found this podcast. That would be absolutely awesome. I certainly appreciate those ratings and the reviews. One guest today on this edition of Minnesota Sports Chat. It is none other than Alex Micheletti. You can find him on the Twitter machine. Pretty self-explanatory at Alex Micheletti, Micheletti. Alex, how you been? It's been a little while since we've caught up.
Yeah, it has been. That's good. Good to hear your voice and see ya. Yeah, interesting times in the in the Minnesota sports arena, you could say, and a lot of sports kind of ending and getting close to playoff time as well. So yeah, it's going to be interesting couple months here.
Yeah, and we have a lot to talk about, and I tried to break it down. I mean, we could literally talk about pretty much every team in town. I
Right.
want to talk about three of them.
Yeah.
Two that I think are, well, I think all three are near and dear to your heart, but two that are still topical and playing right now. The other is always topical. That's the Minnesota Vikings. I think we might close with them on the sports side.
Sure.
But I want to throw it to you, hockey-wise. I want to talk some hockey. You're one of my hockey experts. I love hockey. I love puck. I have my entire life. I can't talk it or speak it like you can or others can. That's why I have you on the pod from time to time. Do you want to start with the Minnesota Wild or do you want to start with my Golden Gophers?
Yeah, let's go with the Wild.
Okay, so let's start there. Here's the question, and I can't believe we're sitting here. I think 4 or 5 months, maybe a bit longer after the Minnesota Wild traded Kevin Fiala. Are the Minnesota Wild about to trade Matt Dumba? Because I think they are. If you read the tea leaves, I think they are.
Yeah, I mean, he's been, the topic of conversation for trades for years, it seems like. And, they recently scratched him for a couple games. They're saying it's for performance. Who knows? You would think if you wanted to trade a guy that you'd be playing him. So now he's back in the lineup tonight versus Tampa Bay. It seems like this would be the perfect time to trade him. And, because his contract is up. And, I think the main thing they're trying to do is try to get the same amount of value back for him. So try to find, a team that has another defenseman that they're willing to give up, because if you trade him, there isn't a whole lot of depth that's ready to go. They do have Brock Faber in the wings, but like we'll talk about, that Gopher team is probably going to be making a deep run. And so, he's obviously the ideal. Yes, he's obviously the ideal replacement for Dumba, but you got to have somebody, that would be taking his spot. And I don't know if they trust Alex Goligoski long term. So, they're probably looking, to get another defenseman to take his spot in the meantime.
Okay, so dumb question here. Follow me on this. It was never truly or one or the other, but it was always kind of portrayed as one or the other when it came to Fiala or Dumba. Just have enough money to be able to simplify it, to pay everybody and stay under the cap and to make the numbers work. If that's truly what it was, and again, I don't believe that it was, but if that's truly what it was, why is Kevin Fiala still not a member of the Minnesota Wild? And why was Matt Dumba not traded in the offseason?
Yeah, I don't think
we're talking about potentially moving both in the matter of months.
Right. If they could have kept Fiala, they would have. They just couldn't afford him. He got even more than Matt Dumba did. And so to make a competitive team, unfortunately, you have to let guys like that go. Now they're hoping that eventually Boldy can fill that point production that Fiala left this team. And they're still navigating those buyouts, and it's still gonna be a couple more years of that. And they're just banking on these younger guys, with their cheap contracts, trying to do it as a team, as a group effort. And now with that Boldy contract, things are going to get even more interesting with as far as trying to re-sign these depth guys. Are you going to be able to afford Freddie Gaudreau? Ryan Reeves, is eventually going to need something here. And they're going to have to maybe, we'll see, re-sign Philip Gustafson, who's been playing great hockey. And so, it's going to be interesting because people thought that Matt Boldy was going to be signed to a bridge deal, not this long-term deal that he got. So, it's going to lead to even more interesting decisions for Bill Guerin. But when they signed Matt Boldy, he said they were a better team from the buyouts. He in his mind, he doesn't think the buyouts are hindering his team at all. So it's going to get even trickier with this signing.
Well, let's talk about the actual team on the ice and less about, some of the front office decisions, what may come, what might not come, because we just simply don't know. It's just been very topical with Matt Dumba the last week or two. The team on the ice, I got to be honest, Alex, I would say they're probably about right where I thought they would be. I thought there would be some regression from last year, but I still thought they were a playoff team. And looking at the standings today on this record date of January 24th, they'd be taking out Winnipeg in the first round of the playoffs. I think most fans, if you're level-headed, if I can use that, a lot of fans aren't. I get it. I think you have to be okay with what you've seen this year. There's been ups and downs, but newsflash, they play 82 games. There's going to be ups and downs.
Yeah, it could be even better than what some people thought because we had no idea what they were to get out of Philip Gustafson. He was an absolute wild card. He was coming from an Ottawa Senators team that, frankly, is awful defensively. And so, Bill Guerin was banking on him, playing better as a goalie in front of a better defensive team, in front of the likes of, Jared Spurgeon and Jonas Brodin, and just as a whole team, just better defensively than Ottawa. And it's worked out perfectly. And Marc-Andre Fleury's been, steady as they come in net. And, they're just kind of, they're relying on the top line a lot to produce offensively, but it's working. And like you said, they're in that playoff spot. Now, we didn't think that Dallas and Winnipeg would be in the 1-2 spots in the Central, and they're kind of holding steady. And the Wild are going to have to hold off the likes of Colorado and Calgary that are on their way up. In wild card spots right now. So it's going to be a crazy finish, here for the last 30 plus games.
If I had my way, in my mind, the Dallas Stars will always be the number one rival to the Minnesota Wild. I cringe just saying Dallas Stars.
Right.
I hate what they've done to once great uniforms. They have desecrated the Stars uniforms. Honestly, I might dislike them more than any other franchise in sports. That includes the Green Bay Packers. That includes the Wisconsin Badgers. That includes the New York Yankees. I just can't stand them. And part of the reason why, I think we've had this conversation before, Alex, I'm 36, although for a part of today I thought I was only 35. So maybe that's another sign of old age. But if you go back and you kind of backdate that, there's a decade where there was no hockey in Minnesota.
Which is crazy.
Correct, exactly. At least no NHL hockey. So I would do, as a hockey fan, I would watch Fox had hockey on Saturday, which was almost always the Detroit Red Wings, who I don't like either, but that's who I was stuck watching. And whatever games ESPN would have. And that to me is just because of what they did to the state, that's my rival. But I don't think that that's actually the rival of most Minnesota Wild fans. Is it Winnipeg now? Is it still the Chicago Blackhawks? Is it Dallas? And I would also submit to you, that is kind of part of the problem with the Minnesota Wild. They've always been kind of geographically moved around and maybe not in the best spot to develop real rivals.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been Chicago, but they're starting to fall off a cliff here. Especially if they
Only took a
don't.
decade.
Yes, especially if they don't re-sign Patrick Kane and Jonathan Taves. They're tanking. They're trying to do their best to get Connor Bedard, who is a once-in-a-generation type hockey player. So we'll see if Chicago gets him. I hope not. But yeah, Winnipeg is just the past couple of years, and the Wild have played them in the playoffs too. They're just a team that the Wild. It always seems to be controversy against them and just fights and madness. And, they have a really good team. Guys like Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, and Connor Hellebuck and net there. And they have Nate Schmidt now. So yeah, it's fun. They get their fans to travel across the border and come down to the X. And yeah, I think you would say Winnipeg would be their biggest rival right now.
I didn't mean to derail too far from the actual team on the ice. I do want to spend a little bit more time there.
Sure.
What if this team is, I'll be honest, I used to watch probably every Wild game or darn near close to it.
Mm-hmm.
The last few years, it's been a little bit less because I've kind of fallen into that. I don't want to say it's borderline Timberwolves apathy, but it's kind of, hey, can we win a playoff series and then get back to me? And I get it. Like, I expected some regression this year.
Right.
But with all that being said, you're in the mix. There's still a chance you might host a playoff series. You have some games in hand. What can this team do to potentially win a playoff series and go on a run?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it. Guys have disappeared in the past couple of seasons in the playoffs. Kevin Fiala, that's probably why he's not on the team too. They're going to just need their big guns to show up in the playoffs. Vegas and St. Louis have taken them down the past couple of years. And, Krill basically had to do it all by himself last year against St. Louis. I mean, that run he had by himself was just magical. But, they just still couldn't pull off, that playoff series victory. They're going to need Marc-Andre Fleury to be at his best. And come playoff time, your goalie, needs to be relied on to steal a game or two. And so I don't think this season too that they'll have that goalie type of controversy. It seemed like Cam Talbot just couldn't handle himself not playing in the playoffs. And I think that really caused an issue in the locker room, and it clearly did because he and his wife complained about him not playing, and in social media, and his agent got into it with Bill Guerin at the draft, and you just can't be having that happen. And so, I think they know that Marc-Andre Fleury will be the playoff goalie, and if he does struggle, you do have Gustafsson, who's been reliable.
It's so seldom that this happens to me or even in sports. I want this team to do well because I really like the general manager. I'm not sure if every move that he makes is a good move. I think you're always going to have some misses, right, in all sports. But I love the tone that he sets for and everybody knows that if you're on social media at all, you see a lot of videos of things they said or things that he's done. But even go back to Cam Talbot, I'll butcher what he said, but he basically said, I'm not trading him, and then the next day traded him. So I love that, but I say all that to say this. I never believe a word that general managers or owners say. Typically, if their lips are moving, they're lying. And there's a reason why they're lying. However, I give Bill Guerin a ton of credit for this. I think he's one of the most honest general managers I can't say all of sports because it's really tough to hear from all of them, but at least in Minnesota in my lifetime, oftentimes he comes out and gives you the truth and maybe says things that maybe fans don't always want to hear or players want to hear themselves. But I think that's why players and the team respects him. And I really appreciate that about him.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we can look at the Ryan Reeves trade. It got a lot of flack. A lot of people are like, why are they trading for Ryan Reeves? They need a scorer. And he came out and he was pretty blunt. He said this team needed some swagger. They had lost it. And, his presence just in the locker room and on the ice, you can see the team loves having him as a teammate, and he's there as a physical presence if need be. And Bill Guerin has always gone for it. That's something you have to admire too. He doesn't want to tank. He thinks this team can win and win at a high level, and they always seem to go for it, no matter the circumstances, the buyouts. Like I mentioned earlier too, he doesn't think they're a hindrance to the team at all, and he thinks they're just going to be better for it. And you gotta love it. And like you said, he's honest, which you don't hear a lot from GM, especially in this town.
I think I'd love to buy Billy G a few mid Golden Lights and then really get him to tell me how he really feels about what the buyouts are doing to his roster, because that is one thing. To a degree, I think he's telling the truth, but I also don't believe that that's 100% the truth. Obviously, it's affecting the types of players that you can go out and get because of the money. However, with that said, it doesn't actually directly affect the players that night on the ice. So I do understand that. I want to talk with you a little bit about one of my loves that for a while, I think in this state, for a multitude of reasons, kind of lost its way, and that's the Pride on Ice and Gophers hockey. I also kind of vomit in my mouth a little bit when I say Pride on Ice, so sorry if that offends you, but it's just, we got to move on from that hashtag. We just have to come up with something better than that. But it's great to see the Moods rocking again. I mean, even that place at 60-70% can be a ton of fun. I did not get to either game this past weekend against Michigan, but just on TV, it was noticeable how excited the place was, and the excitement in there was just awesome to see. And I think, were you there both nights or one?
Yeah, both nights. Yeah, both nights.
Yeah, so you got to basically see an NHL game between two college squads, two nights in a row. Just talk about what you saw on the ice, if you don't mind, because even watching on TV, you can just see the skill level of these two teams is incredibly high. And I think there's a reason why Michigan's record is probably not where we all thought it would be. I fully expect Michigan to be heard from come tournament time. I really do.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've watched a lot of college hockey, and those two games were some of the best college hockey I've seen in a long time. And you talked about Mariucci too. That was the loudest I've heard it in a long time as well too. When that place is going, there's not a better atmosphere in college hockey. They set a record this past weekend. They had over 20,000 people there combined the two nights, which was just fantastic to see. The skill level on both teams. I mean, both nights went to overtime. You didn't want either game to end. The speed of both teams, it's just phenomenal. And the amount of guys on the ice that are going to be playing in the NHL very soon was really awesome.
I don't even really like to say this, Alex, because I wanted the Gophers to win both games, but it felt fitting that each team got a win, didn't it? I mean, it kind of felt poetic that both teams left that weekend having won a game with how great of a performance they both put on.
Oh yeah, you could tell how much it meant to Michigan to get that win on Saturday, because on Friday you saw their goalie Eric Portillo. I mean, he left the ice without everybody else was still on the ice. He went straight off the ice, and you could tell that loss was really hurting him. And they came out Saturday, guns a-blazing, and really set the tone for that entire game. And Michigan ends up winning Saturday, but Friday when Nyes got that winner, it was just absolutely electric. And what's so fun about this Gopher team is their entire top line. I think they could be playing in the NHL right now, and in Logan Cooley and Nyes, like I mentioned, and Jimmy Snuggerud is just a beast. That kid, his release is, I've never seen a shot like his in college hockey. He's so much fun to watch. And then their defensive core, I mean, they have the best defense in the country, I think. And, we mentioned Brock Faber, who's going to be on the Wild very soon, and Jackson Lacombe, who, I think could be right in the race there for the Hobie Baker. He had an amazing goal on Friday night that tied the game. And Yeah, Ryan Johnson. I mean, they had guys come back that didn't need to come back for their senior season, but they wanted to run it back and try to win a national championship. So yeah, that was incredible. And then Michigan, Adam Fantilli kid, who's going to be the number 2 pick in this upcoming NHL draft, just so much fun to watch. And he scored a couple times on Saturday. That kid is just electric.
Nobody knows better than Bob Motzko for all
Mhm.
the wrong reasons how random the NCAA hockey tournament
Right.
can be. He's brought some really good teams there and left with absolutely nothing. And you look at this Gophers team right now, their 3 leading scorers are 2 freshmen and a sophomore. I do think that this team is national championship good. I think obviously the rankings, the pairwise, all that stuff shows that. But I would say this: does the youngness? I don't even want to say inexperience, because at this time of the season, you're about as experienced as everybody else, especially with how much hockey these guys have played. But does that worry you a little bit come tournament time when maybe you play some teams that are more seasoned? We've seen that hurt Gopher hockey in recent history in the past. And I'm not saying the past is always indicative of what the present or the future is going to look like, but it is fresh in your head as a Gopher hockey fan. However, last year's team, with a lot of returning members, did make it to the Frozen Four.
Yeah, we've seen in the past couple seasons, Mankato has knocked the Gophers out of the NCAA tournament. And when you play older physical teams, they're going to take it to you, and they always want to take down the Gophers. And so that's something that they're going to have to fight through. You could tell, especially last year against Mankato. Guys were starting to get frustrated, and Mankato brought the physicality to them. And also, they were playing the best goal in college hockey and Dryden McKay. That helps a little bit, but
best goalie and best name.
Yes, just amazing. Named after the famous goaltender from the Canadians and all NHL Dryden, Ken Dryden. So yeah, if they play a team like Mankato again or Western Michigan, these older teams, they're going to have to fight through that. They'll be playing a bunch of 23, 24-year-olds, and we'll see if this younger Gopher team can fight through that. But what has really impressed me is these young guys on the Gophers. They have some bite to them. Especially Logan Cooley. He loves to throw his body around, and Matty Nyes, I call him a man child. That he's just a beast. I really think he could be playing with Austin Matthews right now in Toronto. I know they wanted him badly, but he wanted to come back and try to win a national championship. And I think this team I think is a lot different from last year. Like I said, they didn't have a Logan Cooley. They didn't have a Jimmy Snuggerud. These first round draft picks that just with how they can shoot the puck, I think it's just a difference maker.
I don't ever expect this to happen, but I'm going to throw this out there. I want you to work your connections. I'm going to put goalie gear on. I'm going to get in net, and I'm going to let Jackson Lacombe just line up and pepper me from the point. I mean, that kid's shot is scary. I would never want to get in front of that, even fully padded up.
Yeah, I mean, that goal on Friday was just absolutely incredible. He's a heck of a player. Everything he does is effortless. He's so smooth out there, and he didn't need to come back, but he did. And he's one of the keys. He's so important on the power play. 5-on-5. He plays all important minutes. And a guy like Brock Faber doesn't have to do as much because just of like guys like him and Ryan Johnson. But he's important too, for sure.
I can tell this media thing, whether you like it or not, is in your blood, because you mentioned smooth. One thing that's smooth is coffee. Beans Coffee Company. They remind you not to miss out on all things Beans Coffee Company. Subscribe to their email newsletter. Again, I'm not even asking you to purchase anything. Just sign up for their newsletter. Subscribers, you'll receive advance notice on limited time sales, new releases, promo codes, and so much more. You can do that at coffeebybeans.com. Now the ask part and a promo code. While you're there, you can sign up for a coffee subscription. Super easy. You can set them up in 1 to 8 week intervals. You can customize it by your favorite blend. I love the Perfectus and the Mikado. I've been crushing some Perfectus blend these last few weeks. Choose 12 ounce or 5-pound bulk bags for that subscription. It'll be delivered right to your door. One less thing for you to forget or have to remember when you go shopping. Don't forget you can use that promo code SportsChat. You'll save some money upon checkout. You'll also be supporting this pod. Beans Coffee Company, they ship anywhere in the U.S. Free shipping on all orders of $35 or more. You don't have to do the subscription either. That's the easiest, but you know what? You can purchase by the bag. Give them a try, coffeebybeans.com. That's coffeebybeans.com. Use the promo code SportsChat to save at checkout. Well, Alex, we avoided it as long as we possibly could, but let's talk about the purple. Okay, let's talk about the Minnesota Vikings. I see your tweets. You're not just a hockey guy. You're also big on the Pablo Lopez train, and so am I. Maybe we'll talk about that later on this summer. But the Minnesota Vikings, I jotted down a bunch of names here. I'm going to play a game with you, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And the game's pretty easy, very self-explanatory. I'm going to read you a list of names, not even the money that they make. We know they all make a lot of money. I'm going to read you a list of names, and you tell me from the list that I'm going to read to you, and I can read it back again, which ones would you try and keep either at restructure, just pay them what they're due, and which ones do you think it's time to move on from? Those names, all the elder statesmen, Harrison Smith, Daniil Hunter, Eric Kendricks, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, and even our boy Zadarius Smith, who apparently has already scrubbed social media of all things Minnesota Vikings, so maybe that's a sign right there. Any of those guys are you bending over backwards to hold on to, or can you make a case and are you ready to move on from everyone?
You know, out of all those, I would love to keep Daniil Hunter. I just think he was used incorrectly with this Ed Donatel defense. But everybody else, I think it'd be time to move on. You know, again, we mentioned, you know, Cam Talbot, you know, the Thielens, you know,
There's some parallels here.
There's some social media talk from Adam Thielen's wife, Caitlin, and just she's saying that he's disrespected, but that just never ends well. I think, you know, spouses are better off just not saying anything and letting the player, their spouse's agent handle that.
If Adam wants to go back to catching 100 plus passes a year, he could do that, but it's going to be on the 4-13.
Right. Right. Yeah. Somebody that wants that amount of money on their cap, go ahead for almost, you know, 33-year-old wide receiver. You know, Harrison Smith, I think he had a tough finish to the season. It was not his best performance in the Giants game. Same thing with Eric Kendricks. You know, if these guys do want to come back, their cap hits, they're going to have to restructure way down, just because their performance is not matching what their contract is right now.
Well, you inadvertently gave me another segue. Kirk Cousins restructure. Are you asking him? It wouldn't technically be a restructure, but
right.
Are you going to let this? You're in charge.
Yeah.
Quasi comes to you and says, "Hey, Alex, I'm going to put you in charge of the Kirk Cousins situation." You going with a long-term extension, maybe a short-term extension to help with some cap relief, or are you taking all the pain this year and riding it out at the almost? I think he's owed 45, but I think it's a $38 million cap hit. So how are you handling this? If it helps, I'll tell you what I would do.
Yeah,
what I would do is I would ride it out. What I think the Vikings are going to do is extend him probably 1 year so they can lower the cap number over the course of 2 years. That's what I think they'll do. I don't think they should do that. I think they should ride this out And at some point, Kirk had a great year.
Yeah.
This is the best year I've ever seen from him. I
Right.
don't really care about stats. I want a guy who gets, no better way to put this, I appreciated this year when he would get his ass kicked and stand up and come back for more. I've never really seen that from him before. So I appreciated that. However, he's in his mid-30s.
Right.
I don't think anybody expects him to be Tom Brady, wondering at 45, 46 what team he's going to be playing for. So
No.
I would ride it out and just more than likely be done with it. But what would you do?
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat as you. He's going to be 35 by the time next season starts. He doesn't seem like a guy that will be like a Brady that will play 42, 43. I mean, we saw Drew Brees.
Is likely to rework his deal like Brady does almost every year.
Right. And his time here, it's led to one playoff victory. That if you're trying to get to the upper echelon, trying to get in NFC championship games, he hasn't done that yet. It is a team game, but at some point your quarterback elevates you to the next step there. So I'm with you too. I think they ride it out, but they have to have a plan to succeed him too. So I know they are limited in their draft capital this upcoming draft. So I don't know if they'll draft a quarterback, but maybe you ride it out and then draft that quarterback for for the next not this upcoming season, but the year after that. It just at some point the wheels are going to fall off for him, and I think it's a risk to do an extension. I think you just play it out here and see how this upcoming season is going to go. Because if you take a look, the teams that are left in the playoffs, the Vikings are going to be playing all four of them. So I think next season's going to be tougher than it was this season for them.
Pack a lunch, as my good buddy Manny Hill likes to say, when you look at what the Viking schedule will be next year. I like the home teams this week in Championship Sunday. I think the Eagles all year long they've had very few road bumps. The road bumps they did have, it was because Jalen Hurts was injured and not playing. Law of averages tells me at some point, even though Patrick Mahomes is a little gimpy, law of averages tells me at some point Kansas City's going to beat Cincinnati. And for me, it seems logical that it'll be this weekend. So I like the Chiefs and Eagles playing each other in the Super Bowl. What say you?
Yeah, I like the Chiefs too. I'm with you on that. As far they're going to have to beat them eventually here, and I'll take a 50% or a 75% Patrick Mahomes over most quarterbacks. It's incredible what that man can do on a football field. I think there's something about this 49ers team. I'm going to take the 49ers. I just love their defense, and Brock Purdy, what a story. And I think them getting Christian McCaffrey was such a game changer. He scored, I think, in every game since he was acquired by them. And the versatility of their offense. I mean, that catch that Kittle made against Dallas was just absolutely incredible. And he avoided Trayvon Diggs right at the end there when he was bobbling it. That was something. Deebo Samuel is one of my favorite players to watch in the NFL. I mean, you can line him up as a wideout or as a running back. They have Juszczyk, their fullback that is so versatile. And they have the best offensive lineman in the game in Trent Williams. Watching him battle against Micah Parsons was just incredible. So, I'm going to continue to ride that 49ers team, and I think they win the Super Bowl. So we'll see. But, Jalen Hurts has had an incredible season too. I think that's going to be the best game of the weekend. If we had to pick, between the two games, I think that Philly Niners game is going to be absolutely electric.
If San Francisco wins, it's interesting because we either get a rematch of San Francisco and Kansas City from a few years ago. And there's also a possibility that if Cincinnati and San Francisco both go on the road and win, we will see a Cincinnati-San Francisco Super Bowl for the third time.
Right.
And it's also possible the Bengals can join the Vikings in infamy and lose their fourth Super Bowl. So there's
lots of storylines.
There's a lot of storylines here over the next few weeks. Okay, Alex, I haven't done this in a while. I'm going to bring back 5 filler questions where I give you some random questions. Wait. Some are sports related, some are not. Are you okay with that?
Oh, yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Okay, so 5 filler questions. First cheap podcast open. 5 filler questions. This is actually inspired by Phil Mackey, I guess cohort of mine at the 9 to 5 or at the day
We love
job.
Phil. Yep.
Hence the name 5 filler questions. Okay, so here's question number 1, Alex. I'm back on a game show binge. I've been watching Supermarket Sweep, the classic version from the early 90s on Roku channel.
Yes.
First off, David Ruprecht sweaters. It's like 11 out of 10. Every one is just dynamite. Do you have a favorite game show?
Yeah, I mean, I love watching Family Feud. Steve Harvey is just, I think he's one of the best game hosts of all time. His humor.
He's nailed that.
Yes. I mean, they've went through a couple of hosts before him, and he kind of just nailed it down. And I just like his interviewing style and his humor. And that game is so much fun to play.
What is your question number 2? Favorite college hockey venue that you've been to? That can be in the state of Minnesota. That can be literally anywhere. What is your favorite college hockey venue?
Yeah, I got to go with Mariucci. I went to Mankato, and I worked for the team down there in college. But I just love Mariucci. All the history, just seeing all the nostalgia in the arena there of all the former teams and the titles that they've won, and seeing the wall there of All Americans, my dad on there, which is really cool, and all the legends, John Masich. I just love that place. There's nothing better.
I'll give a hat tip as well to Ritter Arena. I hadn't been to Ritter in a couple of years prior to a few weeks ago. I mean, pandemic obviously played a huge role in that. But I try to get to one women's game a year, and I just hadn't been in a few years. Ritter's a great place.
Oh, yeah.
What a great place. I'm so glad that the university has invested in that program like they have. 1, because they deserve it. But 2, it's, in this state, it's kind of an embarrassment of riches at this point, other than maybe Target Center when you go check out a sporting event. So hat tip to Ritter Arena. Okay, here's number 3 for you. What do you enjoy that's not sportsy? I think people, we think, Alex Micheletti family, we see your tweets. A lot of them are sports related.
Yeah.
When Alex decides I'm not going to watch a game or I'm going to do stuff on my own time, what are you doing that might have nothing to do with sports?
Yeah, I'm a huge music fan. Rock music is near and dear to my heart. My favorite band is the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and they're coming to US Bank in April with the Strokes, and I cannot wait for that concert. It'll be my first concert at US Bank, so I'm just so curious to see how the acoustics are and everything for a concert. I've been there for Vikings games, but I'm really looking forward to that. It'll be my first concert since the pandemic, and so just love going to all the local venues for concerts, and so I'm looking forward to getting back into the music scene here now that it's safe to do so.
Yeah, my plea, if anybody wants to give it away now in the form of a free ticket to me to that show, I would definitely take that. Question number 4, Alex. You can sign one bill into law today for anything. What are you enacting into law, big or small? And keep in mind, at some point, I may or may not run for governor, so you could be auditioning for a cabinet role right now. So just keep in mind.
Yeah, let's. The speed limits need to increase a little bit, I think. Yes. And getting the slow, the left, the slow lane people out of the fast lane too. We have a problem with that in Minnesota for sure.
We have people who love to take the law into their own hands on the road, right?
Right.
And I get it. Yeah, technically there's probably some people in the left lane speeding, but the signs say, slower traffic, move over. If you're going slower than the person behind you, move over. That's also a passing lane, by the way. You should primarily be using it to pass, not camp out in. But I don't need to tell you that because of your Monday through Friday job.
Right.
Okay, final question for you, and then I'll let you go on with your merry evening. Spill the beans for me. I need an embarrassing story about your father that you're willing to tell. And the only reason why I bring that up is I told you after the fact when I had you on, I don't know, 6 months, a year ago, whenever it was. It didn't dawn on me until we were done that I used to, on occasion, fill in for the Saturday producer, and I would push the buttons, the ones and twos for your father when he was doing Beyond the Pond on that other station in town that I won't say because this podcast will show up in a feed that technically I probably shouldn't say it. But I need an embarrassing story about your father because I've been in the same room with your father. I've only been in the same virtual room with you. So spill the beans. I need something.
My dad is absolutely hilarious, as you know, and we have a dog named Casey, and he's just, he talks and he pretends that that Casey can talk, and so he does like a dog voice pretending to be Casey. So it's absolutely hilarious. He does his radio hits and podcasts, and the dog is always ends up in the same room and is always barking. So I always laugh when I can hear Casey in the background of podcasts or on live, radio that goes across the entire state of Minnesota. It always cracks me up for sure.
I think anybody who has a pet knows there's a different voice that we all use that we don't really want people to hear, but behind closed. I talk to I just have a cat at the moment, but I talk to her like she's a 3-year-old kid, right? Everything is in that voice where you probably don't want actual people to hear it.
Yeah.
This has been a ton of fun. Tell your father hello. I don't think he will remember me at all. It's literally been probably 15 years.
Amazing.
That did bring a smile to my face when
of course.
thought that after we talked the last time.
Yeah.
So this has been a ton of fun. We'll catch up. I want your Pablo Lopez and Minnesota Twins takes when the moment's right. And maybe I haven't been down to Kellogg recently to put my lawn chair down for the Stanley Cup parade. I'm monitoring. I think we need to monitor for another month or two before I decide to go down and
win and get in. That's the hope. Yeah.
I mean, you never know, right? I mean, that's really easy and a simplistic thing to say about hockey, but for the most part, you look at baseball in the NBA, a 7 or 8 seed in the old NBA is not going to do anything, right? But they can in the NHL. So, anywho, we'll save that for next time. Alex, thank you. Where can people learn more about you? Twitter handle the best way?
Yes. Yep. Alex Micheletti, like you mentioned, first and last name, and host a great Wild podcast too called Locked On Wild.
That's right. I should have put that out there.
Yes, we do. I joined Seth Topol on Sunday nights. Well, we record Sunday and the episode comes out Monday. So we recap, how the Wild do over the weekend and then preview the upcoming week for them too. So I have a blast doing that. And then I also do. Oh, go ahead.
So those Sunday games always cause a little bit of an issue, don't? I know how that works when you're trying to record.
Exactly. Yep. And also do a college hockey podcast, NCAA, and where we cover the full state of the Minnesota college teams. I specifically do Mankato, and so we usually record those on Wednesday nights, and the episode comes out the following day. So love doing that. So love joining podcasts like this one too, and just talking about the whole sports gamut of Minnesota, because it's never dull in this state, right?
We are blessed and cursed at the same time, and I love every second of it. That is Alex Micheletti again on the Twitter machine. Alex Micheletti. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate it.
Of course, yeah. Thank you, Ross.
And that'll do it for already edition number 151. I got to go back and look at how many years I've been doing this now. Must be at least, it's at least 2, maybe 3 years. But thank you for joining me. I know many of you have joined me each and every episode. I love when people reach out. Thank you so much for doing that. But edition number 151 of the soon-to-be award-winning Minnesota Sports Chat is in the books. Please make sure if you're looking for some great coffee, Beans Coffee Company, that's where you do it, coffeebybeans.com. Use that promo code SportsChat. I'm Ross Brendel saying thank you so much for listening. We will talk again real soon.